What if Ukraine attacked Russia first? In this timeline, it is 2026, and the Ukrainian flag flies over Sevastopol. The Black Sea fleet that once threatened Ukraine now belongs to Kyiv. Crimea is Ukrainian again. The war that was supposed to erase a nation instead crowned it with victory. But none of this was inevitable. One different choice in February 2022 changed everything. Today, Kyiv feels like a capital that won. Reconstruction is almost complete. Young people who once sheltered in metro stations now work in drone factories and tech startups. But rewind 4 years and the future looked very different. Everything began with hope and fire in 2014. Ukrainians overthrew a corrupt president who turned toward Moscow. Russia answered by seizing Crimea and backing separatists in Donbass. 14,000 people died in 8 years of frozen conflict. By late 2021, the mask came off. Over 150,000 Russian troops massed on Ukraine's borders and in Belarus. Satellites showed new field hospitals, fuel depots, and rail cars of tanks. Western intelligence warned that invasion was weeks away. President Zelensky begged for weapons and security guarantees. He tried to keep his people calm while preparing for the worst. Russia kept saying it was just exercises. The world waited, hoping diplomacy would save the day. Most analysts assumed Ukraine would absorb the first blow and fight a desperate defense. That assumption was about to be shattered. In our timeline, on February 22, 2022, Zelensky and his commanders faced an impossible choice: wait for the invasion everyone knew was coming, or strike first to disrupt the Russian spear before it could be thrown. Some argued a preemptive attack would give Putin the exact pretext he wanted. Others said waiting meant Kyiv could fall in days. Zelensky made his decision. Ukraine would not go quietly into the night. Just after midnight, on February 23rd, Ukrainian missiles and Bayraktar drones slammed into Russian staging areas in Belgorod and Rostov regions. Fuel farms exploded, command posts vanished in fireballs. Russian soldiers who expected to invade woke up under attack. The preemptive strikes destroyed or damaged roughly a quarter of the invasion force's immediate logistics and air support. The surprise Putin had counted on was gone before his tanks ever crossed the border. Putin was reportedly enraged. He appeared on television accusing Ukraine of starting the war and ordered a special military operation to protect Donbass and denazify Ukraine. But the machine he had built was already damaged. The invasion launched anyway on February 24th, but it was uncoordinated from hour one. Damaged bridges, destroyed fuel depots, and confused orders slowed every advance. Ukrainian defenders, already at maximum readiness, exacted a terrible price. Around Kyiv, Russian airborne troops and tank columns were ambushed repeatedly. The elite units meant to seize the capital in 3 days were mauled within 48 hours. The preemptive strikes had saved the city before the battle truly began. Kyiv did not fall. Instead, ordinary Ukrainians and soldiers turned the approaches into a graveyard for Russian armor. By early April, Moscow ordered a humiliating withdrawal from the north, leaving behind hundreds of burned vehicles and thousands of dead. With momentum on their side, Ukrainian forces launched counteroffensives earlier and harder than in our timeline. By July, they had liberated most of Kharkiv region. In August, they recaptured Kherson after a lightning operation that caught the Russians off balance. The Black Sea Fleet suffered early and repeated losses. Ukrainian naval drones and anti-ship missiles sank or crippled several major Russian ships, including the flagship Moskva, months earlier than reality. Russia's naval dominance evaporated. Russia announced partial mobilization in September. Hundreds of thousands of poorly trained men were sent to the front. Morale collapsed almost immediately. Many soldiers understood they were dying for a war that had already gone wrong because of Ukraine's first strike. Western capitals reacted with shock to Ukraine striking first, but the images of Russian troops still invading made the narrative clear. Ukraine had tried to prevent catastrophe. Aid flowed faster and heavier than in our timeline. Javelins, artillery, and eventually tanks arrived in volume. By spring 2023, Ukrainian brigades equipped with Western tanks punched through Russian lines in Zaporizhia. They reached the Sea of Azov by early summer, cutting the land bridge to Crimea. For the first time, Crimea was isolated. With the land route severed, Ukrainian missiles and drones hammered the Kerch Bridge and Russian supply ships. Crimea's garrison began to starve for fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements. In early 2024, Ukrainian forces launched the operation to liberate Crimea itself. Naval commandos and Marines, supported by relentless drone and missile strikes, landed on the peninsula's northern coast, while ground forces pushed from the mainland. Street by street, Sevastopol was fought for. Russian defenders, cut off from resupply, fought hard but were steadily pushed back. By midsummer 2024, Ukrainian troops raised their flag over the historic headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. Crimea was free. The psychological blow to Russia was catastrophic. The war that Putin had started to secure his legacy had instead destroyed it. Inside Russia, the reality could no longer be hidden. Casualties passed 400,000. The economy buckled under sanctions and war spending. Protests that had been small grew into something the Kremlin could not ignore. A power struggle inside the elite reached its peak in late 2024. Putin was removed in a quiet but decisive internal coup. He reportedly fled to Belarus. A transitional government took power, promising to end the bloodshed. The new authorities contacted Kyiv and Western capitals within days. They wanted peace before the country collapsed completely. Peace talks opened in early 2025. After months of difficult bargaining, a treaty was signed in summer. Ukraine regained every kilometer of its 1991 borders, including Crimea and full control of Donbass. Russia accepted strict military limitations near the frontier and agreed to pay reparations over 15 years. Ukraine pledged it would never host nuclear weapons. In return, it received ironclad bilateral security guarantees from the United States, United Kingdom, Poland, and others. NATO membership followed within 18 months. By 2026, Ukraine is one of the most dynamic countries in Europe. Reconstruction funds and a booming defense tech sector have created thousands of jobs. Mariupol and Bakhmut are being rebuilt as symbols of what a nation can endure and overcome. Ukraine's military has become a high-tech powerhouse. Its drone and electronic warfare systems are studied by armies around the world. The country that was once written off now exports security expertise. Refugees have returned by the millions. Entire cities that were rubble are rising again, often more beautiful and functional than before. The trauma remains, but so does a fierce pride. Ukraine is now a full NATO member. Its voice carries weight in every European security discussion. The nation that almost disappeared is now a cornerstone of the continent's defense. Russia looks very different. The war and its aftermath triggered the largest brain drain in its modern history. The economy is recovering slowly. Political life remains turbulent as the country debates its future and its past. A new generation of Ukrainians is growing up knowing their country fought for its existence and won. The story of the preemptive strike is taught as the moment courage met preparation. One decision in a bunker changed the map of Europe. The same war, the same leaders, the same weapons, but a different first move produced an entirely different ending. The cost was still horrific. Hundreds of thousands died on both sides. Families on every street carry permanent scars. Victory did not erase the price. Millions of Russians left and never returned. Some still hope for a different Russia. Others have made new lives elsewhere. The war changed them as much as it changed Ukraine. History is not a straight line. It is a series of moments where one choice, made under pressure, sends waves outward for decades. In our real world, the war ended differently. But this alternate timeline reminds us that nothing is written until leaders choose. Deterrence, timing, and the willingness to act can prevent disasters or create new ones. The preemptive strike was an act of desperation that became an act of salvation. It carried enormous risk. It also changed the entire equation. Around the world, leaders watched. Some drew lessons about credible deterrence. Others saw the dangers of escalation. The ripples reached every continent. We will never know what would have happened if Ukraine had waited. We only know that one different choice produced victory instead of occupation, freedom instead of subjugation. In this timeline, Ukraine did not merely survive, it prevailed. And the world learned again that the future is never fixed until someone decides to change it. History turns on moments. What will we choose? Thank you for watching. If this alternate history made you think differently about our own timeline, hit like and subscribe. The past is fixed. The future is still being written.